I feel like gold, the commodity, maybe not in 2 weeks, maybe not in 2 months, but certainly in 2 years, and much more in 5 years, I think the gold price is much higher. If you believe that, you believe that silver will catch up, that there'll be a slingshot. And the equity prices don't reflect that. So that's a place to start. My belief is that in the next 10 years, the US dollar will lose 75% of its purchasing power. And I'm not trying to say that gold will go up 30-fold, but if the US dollar losing 75% of its purchasing power, it makes absolute sense that gold would go up 4-fold.
Gold prices rose ahead of post-pandemic inflation and started declining when inflation peaked in 2022. While it remains unclear why gold reached record highs in 2025, analysts suggest that it signals unease about the global economy. And as history has shown, gold loves bad news. Professional investor RickRule warns that a further surge in gold and silver prices could signal deeper economic troubles. After a year in which gold repeatedly surged to new all-time highs, silver is increasingly capturing the attention of the markets. Over the past year, the price of silver has risen by an impressive 29%, while investors who bought at the lowest price and sold at the peak achieved remarkable gains of up to 59%. Looking at significant factors, Rick suggests that gold could rise if the US dollar loses 75% of its purchasing power, as in the 1970s. While not giving a specific forecast, he hints at the potential for gold to hit 5-digit levels. Gold has gained 275% since Lehman Brothers failed in 2008 and 50% since Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022. Additionally, irresponsible fiscal policies and political chaos in the US suggest that one or more of the traditional drivers of gold may re-emerge. As a result, the world is slowly and methodically moving away from the dollar, a shift most evident in changes to currency reserves and increased central bank gold purchases. According to Rick, Trump's proposal to audit the gold at Fort Knox is more theater than substance. He believes the American people deserve a legitimate, independent audit and a clear title opinion on the gold reserves. Speculation is growing that an official audit could be the first step toward formally revaluating America's gold reserves, which are still recorded at an outdated $42.22 per ounce, despite the market price approaching $3,000 per ounce. The potential implications of such a move are far-reaching, not only for the Federal Reserve's independence and monetary policy, but also for inflation expectations, global gold markets, and the reserve status of the US dollar. Now, we present the clips of RickRule's insights from his recent interview. Before we continue to discuss this, please subscribe to our channel and activate the bell icon for timely updates.
Something's going wrong in the world. It isn't that gold is going up, it's that the purchasing power of the dollar is going down. I said in a previous interview, Charlotte, that when people ask me when the price of gold is going to go up, I scratch my chin sagely, and I say 2000. In 2000, it was $250 an ounce. Now it's what, 29? So it's up sevenfold. It's gone up 8% a year for 25 years compounded. That's up. I think it's going to go higher.
Yeah.
Because I think the arithmetic around the US dollar, not relative to other currencies, but relative to real things, is going to go down. I'm afraid, literally afraid, that gold is going to go much higher because the circumstance that causes it to go much higher is unpleasant for the rest of our lives. And your life and my life are pretty good. I wouldn't be surprised over time to see another digit. So $10,000 plus. This is not a price projection, but the last time that savers lost faith in the US dollar was the 1970s. And in the 1970s, the purchasing power of the US dollar over 10 years declined by 75%. My belief is that in the next 10 years, the US dollar will lose 75% of its purchasing power. And I'm not trying to say that gold will go up 30-fold, but if the US dollar losing 75% of its purchasing power, it makes absolute sense that gold would go up 4-fold. Well, and what Trump is proposing is theater. He says, I should go and take a look. I don't care if he takes a look or not. I don't care if he takes a video. There are proper procedures for auditing gold. At Sprott, every year, we had to audit billions and billions and billions of dollars worth of gold. We know how to do this. The American people deserve an independent audit on the gold at Fort Knox, and they deserve a title opinion. There are legitimate questions as to whether that gold has been hypothecated. There are other questions as to whether it exists at all. Now, there needs to be an audit, and there needs to be an audited title opinion on that gold. We need to know how much is there. If you monetize the gold, the Fed's balance sheet looks better, but it doesn't solve the problem, which is debt. Let's say that I loaned money for U.S. Treasury, and let's say that the U.S. Treasury decided not to pay me. I'm going to go present a bill and collect the gold when they have the guns. Government has a monopoly on extortion, on violence, and on fraud. Monetizing the gold is accounting trickery because nobody has access to it.
In the interview, RickRule compares today's economy to the early 1970s, noting both followed long periods of prosperity and rising hubris. He believes the U.S. economy now faces underlying weaknesses, suggesting a shift from the benevolent climate to a more challenging decade ahead. Rule predicts this change will benefit gold and commodities, driven by a weaker U.S. dollar and underinvestment in resources. Labeling tariffs as hidden taxes, RickRule criticizes Trump's harmful theater in foreign policy. He advocates for a many friends, no enemies strategy, rejecting impractical claims like blaming Canada for the U.S. fentanyl crisis. The gold industry remains largely isolated from the negative impact of global tariffs. In fact, many gold producers could benefit from foreign currency depreciations triggered by these tariffs, as a significant portion of their cost base is denominated in local currencies. For example, Alamos Gold estimates that about 90 to 95% of its Canadian operational costs are Canadian dollar denominated, while about 40 to 45% of its Mexican mine expenses are denominated in pesos. While industry cost inflation is widely reported around the 3 to 5% range for 2025, the potential benefit of weaker local currencies and a rising gold price should more than offset inflationary pressures for the sector. Let's get back to the interview.
There are several similarities. In the early part of the 1970s, we were coming off a pretty good time from the end of World War II to the commencement of the 1970s. The 50s and the 60s were boom times. The Nifty 50, people buying the dips, all that kind of stuff. People were underinvesting in resources because there were too many investment opportunities. We came into the early part of the decade of the 70s with a lot of hubris, but there were underlying weaknesses in the U.S. economy, eerily similar to today, of really benign economic climate. Falling interest rates strengthened the dollar so we could export our problems, the U.S. could, to other countries. And there's 40 years of accumulated hubris. I think, don't get me wrong, I'm not one of these gloom and doomers. I don't think that the U.S. Treasury market's going to go away. I don't think the U.S. dollar is going to go away. I think that the benevolent climate that we've existed in is going to change. And I think it's going to change for about 10 years. I think, unfortunately, that'll be very good for gold because I think it'll be bad for the U.S. dollar. I think it'll be good for other commodities for other reasons, largely underinvestment in those commodities. I think for the PDAC, that the PDAC 10 years from now will look very different than it looks today. Very, very, very different. Libertarian. I'm anti-tax. Tariffs are taxes. Whether Mr. Trump cares to admit it or not, tariffs are taxes. If you're anti-tax, he can't be pro-tariff. So let's get that out of the way. The idea that you would pick fights with the whole world, as opposed to pick fights one or two at a time, seems tactically stupid to me. I liked the political slogan in Turkey before Erdogan. Many friends, no enemies. That would be my idea of a good time. I think partly Mr. Trump likes theater. I think also that Mr. Trump believes that his political power stems from voicing the frustrations of some of his constituency. So I think a lot of what's going on is theater. I happen to believe it's harmful theater. As I say, my own foreign policy, were there to be a rule policy, it would be many friends, no enemies. That there are certain areas where Canada, as an example, enjoys competitive advantage over the U.S. You can ship goods cheaper. There are other circumstances, like the Quebec dairy industry, where the Canadians deserve to get spanked. That part's true. But the truth is that you don't, the idea, as an example, that America's fentanyl problem is a consequence of Canada suggests that Mr. Trump uses too much fentanyl.
Rising global inflation has eroded purchasing power, making gold an attractive hedge. With gold already up 40% year on year, is there still room for further growth? Analysts believe so. Do you agree with RickRule's view that gold prices will continue to rise? And if so, What factors do you believe will drive this trend? Drop your thoughts in the comment section below. If you find this video informative, don't forget to support our channel and turn on notifications to stay informed about our latest videos. See you in the following video.